Alright, there's something I gotta address right now. There's a pet peeve of mine. And frankly, I have to go on addressing this. And it's basically the assumption of an existence of a certain plot hole or plot inconsistency or something, however you choose to phrase it, in Dragon Ball Z. Now, bear in mind, I'm not going to say that there aren't any unanswered questions or things that didn't, you know, ever get fully resolved. For example, why the tails stopped growing back, when it was pretty clear Goku's only grew back when, or only stopped growing back when someone else intervened. Why it is that, or if they even, bothered letting them grow back. Do they keep them off? Yeah, never addressed, whatever. Why Goten and Trunks are able to go Super Saiyan. It's pretty safe assumption that a lot of it has to do with how their parents are, because it is pretty much the stronger the Saiyans are, the stronger the children are. Their generations, by the generation, they kept getting stronger and stronger. Frieza feared what they could become. So I'm guessing that made it easier for them to take it, and as for how they took it, um, it's could be anything. Probably, though, it has to do with the fact that Super Saiyan seems to have an emotional lock to it, and small children can be very emotional. So it could have something to do with that. But never given a 100% solid answer. So I'm not going to say that there's not some stuff that's not answered, okay? There's something like that in almost anything. You're never, and I mean never, ever, ever in history going to find something that's not 100% wrapped up. But what really gets to me are, there are two types of plot hole accusations that really get to me with Dragon Ball Z. Well, three, technically. One is the plot hole that's not a plot hole, but people forgot something that happened in the past that alluded to this happening. Um, which is partially what I'm going to cover now, or at least made it possible. Okay. Part two are the plot holes that are a result of filler. For example, the famous 5-minute thing. Frieza says 5 minutes in this planet's dust, and it continues on for like another 7 episodes or something like that. Which is why one reason I'm grateful for Kai. It kind of gets rid of that because it shortens it to like 2 more episodes or something like that. Plus, a lot of it has to do with the fact that they're able to do all this inside that 5 minutes because of how fast they're moving. It really comes across a lot better in the manga, I'll admit that much. But, well, there you go. At any rate, let's see here, what else? But the biggest one, the one that really ticks me off here, are the claims that Dragon Ball Z was supposed to end at Frieza, clearly, that Goku was supposed to die, and that was it. He was going to be gone, and it was going to be over. Now, let me explain to you guys a little bit of why that doesn't quite hold up. First, I have yet to see anyone who could actually link me to a legitimate official source making that claim. The only official claim I've ever seen where it was originally intended to end was Cell. And the reasons for it continuing are actually not quite so clean-cut as a lot of people like to assume. A lot of people like to think that it was fanboys demanding it come back, mixed with somehow Toei Animation and Shonen Jump were pressuring him to continue. I don't quite buy that, simply because fan pressure I can believe, because the fans aren't going to want to see it go. They're going to be sad. But when it comes to Toei and Shonen Jump basically threatening him to keep going, I mean, what's the guy going to do? What are they going to say to the guy? Either you keep making and publishing this story that you want to end, or we're going to cancel and stop putting out the series that you want to end anyway. I mean, what's the threat that they can have there? The series is pretty clearly up to his discretion when to end it. So, I'm not really sure how they're going to be able to claim it was that. I do know that Akira Toriyama has stated in at least one interview that he himself did admit that he missed doing Dragon Ball Z. after a little while. I also know for a fact that he had said that in the long run, when he looked back on it, having Gohan try to take over for Goku when he had just established that the reason that Gohan was struggling against Cell was because he was not like Goku, he did not enjoy the fighting, so on and so forth, just didn't sit right with him. So he started it up again. Gohan been slacking off because he was much more interested in his book learning than he was in his training. And long story short, Goku winds up having to come back. The way that Goku manages to come back, though, is quite interesting, but we're not going to get into that right now. Right now, we're trying to stick with this whole clearly trying to end it, and here's a few reasons why that doesn't quite hold up. Vegeta being one of the biggest. See, at this point in the story, Frieza dead, Goku dead, Vegeta is quite literally the strongest being in the universe if it was indeed going to end there. Vegeta would have been the strongest being in the universe. And still evil. That's what people are seeming to overlook. Vegeta was not a good guy at this time. Vegeta was still very much evil. Vegeta was bent on, taking Frieza's throne. So he was still very much evil and the most powerful being in the universe. The only people left alive to defend after... excuse me. After Goku's gone are Piccolo and Gohan. Neither one of which is anywhere near Vegeta's level at this point. Now, I know that they like to throw in that... See, that's another ridiculous anime thing that they threw in the filler when Gohan and Vegeta actually get into a literal fight. Because he's laughing at the idea of Goku being gone. And then Piccolo steps in and says, leave him alone or you're going to have to deal with me. And it's like he acts afraid to do that. Nuh-uh. He was a ton stronger than Piccolo, I'm sorry, at that point in the storyline. But, and then they have all these people saying, oh, well, clearly Vegeta was never intended to come back to life. When they wished back everyone who had died, at the hands of Frieza on that planet with the Dragon Balls on Earth, yeah, what did they think was going to happen? Vegeta was going to wind up coming back to life unless they intentionally ignored the rules of how the Dragon Balls work and decided, no, Vegeta, you're not going to get to come back to life, even though by the rules of the Dragon Balls you have to because of the wording of our wish. So, unless you really think that the rules were supposed to be broken there's no way that he couldn't have been resurrected. Let's see, what else? Oh yes, Gohan. No one to teach him how to use his abilities now. His father's gone. He's supposed to assume this mantle, even though, again, even then it was still pretty clear that this was not his ideal lifestyle choice. He does not know yet how to properly control his power. It would require years of training under probably Piccolo, seeing as he'd be the only one left alive. And yeah, all that good stuff. There's also, here's another interesting thing people seem to overlook. The whole, it's ridiculous how he managed to escape, argument. Guys, I know you saw him scream and that light show up and everything, and then a little while later it shows the planet going boom. But again, this is where the anime really didn't convey the what happened as well as the manga did. Because yeah, sure, he's sitting there bellowing in the manga and everything, and then they go to the, everyone's freaking out, and then, Namek goes kaboom. But at the same time, here's something you gotta realize. Everyone throwing a fit about how he managed to survive. How in the world could he have survived? How could he have managed to survive? It's really simple, and it's something that a lot of people forget. And they explain it actually rather well. While he's there, the space pods of the Ginyu Force landed right in front of Frieza's ship. When Frieza's ship fell into the crevasse, it fell because the ground literally split under it, and it fell in. That would not necessarily mean that the pods fell in there earlier. They would still be there, more likely than not. And all he'd have to do is get in one, push the launch button, and get out of there and worry about where he was going afterwards. Probably would have been on autopilot to go back to the base, and the explosion would have been what knocked him off course onto that planet. Now, as for the final reason why it wouldn't have mattered, even if Goku had died, is, well, quite frankly, when they had the Dragon Balls. See, the whole point of going dynamic was to get the Dragon Balls to wish back their friends who had died. So unless the mission was going to quite literally end with complete, total, and utter failure, wherein most of their team wound up dead, a complete and utter Pyrrhic victory at best, if you can even call it a victory, it's more like still a loss. Mission failed, they did not complete their objective. That would not be a good way to end it. So they'd still inevitably have to use those Dragon Balls to wish, at the very least, Tien and Yamcha back to life. And Chaozu. Now, they may or may not have added the number of times someone could be wished back with the Dragon Balls on Namek. But I'm not necessarily certain that that would apply. Simply because it's a different set of Dragon Balls, meaning that it would work under a different set of rules in the first place. Meaning, I mean, they already knew that they could wish back Chaozu that way because the Dragon Ball's there. So so wishing back Krillin wouldn't have been a problem. Wishing back Chaozu, no problem. Wishing back Tien, no problem. Wishing back Yamcha, no problem. And wishing back Goku would have been no problem. So even if he had died, they'd have been able to wish him back. So it's just, none of the whole it's supposed to just end right there is really holding up. Now, granted, I do know that he had said that what happened during the Androids arc actually changed quite a bit as the creative process rolled on from what he had originally thought out, but it still turned out dang good. Arguably one of the best parts of the storyline. But yeah, it was intense. It was, whatever. But again, not the point. The point is, though, ending it at Frieza would have caused all kinds of problems, left all kinds of plot holes open, and unless you plan on doing a whole nother series anyway, that would have had Gohan in it trying to become something he wasn't. I'd say it's a dang good thing that he did continue it, because otherwise it just would have been a mess. And as for the idea, oh yeah, one last thing I want to touch on, the idea that somehow fans pressured him to change this ending. I don't know if a lot of people know how this works, but manga, comics in general, are written usually in advance of anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. So this ending would have been planned out like probably a month before it ever showed up in the comics at the very least. Meaning that unless there was a super incredible leak that somehow this was going to happen that got out back in the days before we had, major internet and forums and websites where we could all talk about and discuss this stuff and organize angry letter write-ins or whatever. And then the odds of the fans being able to put pressure on him to all of a sudden bring Goku back isn't likely either. I'm just saying. You can argue whether or not you think he wanted to end it there, but ending it there wouldn't have been good. Same way with when he realized ending it itself wouldn't have been good. He finally managed to come up with an ending, though, that worked. Then they decided to do Dragon Ball GT, but frankly, the ending for GT worked out quite well, too. You can argue all you want about the series that came before it, but that ending, quite frankly, to me, was the epitome of the perfect way to end Dragon Ball. It's quite symbolic, it's quite lovely, it's quite beautiful, but, again, that's got nothing to do with this overall. It's just that that's considered to be one of the biggest problems with Dragon Ball Z or something like that, and it bugs me because it's actually nowhere near the big deal that people are making it out to be in their heads. And yeah, there's another one that I heard recently that I want to address at some other point in time. And yeah, I know people are going to be trying to say that I'm running apologetics for Dragon Ball while attacking Naruto. I don't care what you think. If someone was trying to claim that there was a huge plot hole in Naruto that wasn't there, I'd defend that too. I've defended Hellsing before. I don't like Hellsing, but I've defended it when someone made stupid accusations and claims about it. So yeah, even as much as I don't like what's happened to Naruto, even if someone made an incredibly stupid, popularly stupid claim about that, yes, I would debunk that as well. But no, the reason I did this is because this one bugs me more than almost any of them. So, anyways, there's that. And that's it for now. Later.